Hi, this is Philip Byrne with PhoneScoop.com, and here I'm looking at the Samsung Fascinate, which is Samsung's version of their Galaxy S phone for Verizon Wireless. And it does have some fairly distinct Verizon Wireless qualities. It also has a strong influence from Samsung with their TouchWiz interface, and it even gets a surprising push from Microsoft with Bing for search. That's right, there's no Google search on this phone. It's just Bing. And what I really liked about this phone is the hardware design. It's a very, very thin phone. It's got a glossy, shiny plastic, so it will get some fingerprints and you're going to notice some scuffing, but otherwise it's very thin and just very striking, especially with this bright Super AMOLED screen up front. That super means that it's good for outdoor use in addition to indoors, and man, it's really just one of the best screens that I've ever seen. It's very colorful. The blacks are just very rich, so it gives the colors a nice contrast. And it's really just a gorgeous phone all around. It's just a great hardware design. It's much thinner than I expected it would be. Certainly less than half as thin as the Epic 4G, the last Galaxy S phone that I saw. So there aren't really many buttons on this phone, just the basics. For ports, up top you've got a standard headphone jack, you've got a micro USB port hidden behind a nice tight port cover. On the side we get a volume rocker, fairly easy to find in a hurry if you need to turn the volume down quickly. This screen lock key here is kind of hidden, but wasn't too tough to get to. I really would have liked a camera button on this phone. I always like camera buttons, especially on these all touchscreen phones here. It's much nicer than having to peck at a hardware button or a software button on screen. It's got capacitive touch buttons beneath the screen. These worked fairly well. I felt a little bit of a delay. I usually prefer hardware buttons here, but these sort of were more responsive than most that I found, so I didn't mind them too much. So the interface here is Samsung's TouchWiz design, but it's certainly the best looking and least intrusive TouchWiz I've seen. You can rearrange the home screen panels, you can add up to 7 panels, and if you don't like the order you can sort of swap them around and move them as you like. If you want to go to this first screen, home first, you can set that as your home screen. These are sort of unusual customization features. Beyond that, Samsung doesn't offer too much to Android. There's some specific widgets, a whole bunch of clocks that you can add, and a couple widgets for buddies and status updates. And most of what you see here is this icon grid. Now you can customize these icons as you like. If you want to move them around. And it rearranges nicely. And you can move your favorites down here into the 3 shortcuts that persist even when you're looking at the regular home screen. So as far as TouchWiz goes, I haven't been a fan in the past, but I kind of like this one. They did a nice job. It doesn't get in your way. It does a nice job arranging itself and customizing for you. Might be a little too cheery for some of my colleagues, but I certainly like the look, especially on this bright, colorful screen. So one of the interesting aspects about this phone is that when you go to search, you're actually searching Bing. This is not Google search. It'll search your phone first for contacts, applications, music files. But if you want to do a web search, you're going to get a Bing search here. Now, sometimes I had trouble with Bing. For instance, I'm not in New York. I'm in Dallas, Texas. But I'm getting pizza results here as if I lived in New York City, complete with phone and map options. Here's Bing Maps. You can download Google Maps. You can't download Google Search, but you can download Google Maps for this phone. But by default, it's going to push you into Bing Maps, or it's going to push you into VZ Navigator. Now Bing Maps, it looks okay. Unfortunately, you don't get pinch and zoom gestures. It's still kind of sluggish around loading. You can see it's kind of jerky. But otherwise it looks nice. It does not offer turn-by-turn directions like Google Maps does though, so if you're going to really want to navigate, you're going to want to download Google Maps anyway. Here's the music player. This is one of the coolest graphical features in the phone. I don't quite like how it displays the album artwork, but there's no doubting that it does show off some of the phone's graphical capabilities and power. This is nice and smooth, and it looks great. And finally, here's the camera on the Samsung Fascinate. I was actually very happy with the camera. I got some really great results shooting with it. Get a nice amount of on-screen menus. There are just a huge number of scene modes here, shooting modes that you can scroll through. And you can have a lot of fun with it. It also shoots 720p high-def video, and I was pretty happy with the video quality as well. And the camera seemed to be nice and responsive. There isn't one specific problem that I had with the Samsung Fascinate. There are just a few little things that sort of bog it down. For instance, it uses Bing instead of Google. There are a lot of VCast services from Verizon and VZ Navigator that replace some of the standard Google stuff. And there's just a lot of ways that this phone is just bloated and loaded down with carrier decisions that might not be best for your average consumer. It's still a very nice phone. It has some unique applications. It's got Skype. It's got a little bit more storage built in than the other Galaxy phones. And of course, it's got Verizon's network. So if you have great Verizon service in your area, that's something you're going to want to consider. But there are definitely a lot of pros and cons to this phone. So it's worth checking out, but so are some of the other Galaxy phones as well. For PhoneScoop.com, I'm Philip Byrne.